Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
We have a super interesting episode this week for a myriad of reasons, and I'm really excited to talk about it. For the staff this week, we have Toshinori Watanabe storyboarding, Masahiko Watanabe as episode director, with chief episode director Naoki Nishikawa, and Tomi Kakutani as the chief animation supervisor. Now, getting into it, it's very clear to see that the episode was really rushed, as indicated by the fact that the episode has 2 episode directors, one of them being Naoki Nishikawa returning from episode 31, along with a whopping 10 animation supervisors on board. That's more than any episode in the whole franchise has ever had. There's also a lot of either odd or just uncorrected drawings all over this episode that Kakutani just didn't have the time to get to, resulting in a lack of uniformity between cuts. So they were really scrambling to get this episode done on time. I should also mention that this episode is technically outsourced to Studio Drive, who also helped the musical accompaniment for the episode. And that's of course Princess G's piano scene, so by no means is this an in-house episode. But now getting to the part I'm really excited for, it's the key animation credits for this episode, containing some very familiar names. Well, at least familiar names if you're around any animation circles on Twitter. We have the inclusion of some very young and up-and-coming web-gen animators taking part this week. The likes of Beast, Jordan Bayers, Van Oba, and Kuro, some of which have worked on shows like Black Clover and Boruto. Now, this is the first time web-gen or Twitter animators have ever worked on Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's something I've always wanted to happen but never actually thought would happen. Now, to go through what webgen or Twitter animators are, these are animators who primarily work digitally and come from all over the world, and most of them don't necessarily live in Japan, and are often very young. In recent years, production assistants from various studios have taken to actually using Twitter as a way of hiring these animators for freelance work. As rough around the edges as this episode is, their involvement here feels very historical. Now, it might take a little too long to go through each cut they've done individually, so I'll just move on to the next thing. Now, to something else I actually thought I'd never see is some legitimate character acting in SEVENS. This is the sort of comedic character acting animation I felt was missing from the first episode, and the rest of the series really. The next cut is from Roman's dual-ending attack on Seize, showing off some amazing camera work as well as some effects animation. Unfortunately, it's a real shame that I'm unable to credit either of these cuts, as they kinda help save this episode. Overall, this was a great episode with some great surprises that sort of almost renewed my faith for the show's production. Not really. But who knows, maybe next week's episode might have some new surprises waiting, wink wink. But until then, see you in the next video.